In tonight's news edition, the Prime Minister announces that the mega Red Sea Dead Sea water conveyance project has started. In a meeting with local governors and administrators ahead of municipal elections, the Prime Minister vows the polls will be fair to boost citizens' confidence in the electoral process. And 24 Egyptian security men are killed in an attack in the Sinai Peninsula as the bloody political standoff continues to grip the country. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty the King, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, paid a visit to the Gendarmerie Department and discussed with its Director General, Brigadier General Ahmed Swilmiyin, a number of issues of concern to the security apparatus. The King expressed appreciation to and pride in gendarmerie personnel who carry out their duties efficiently to protect the country's achievements. He emphasized the importance of safeguarding human rights and citizens' dignity. The Gendarmerie Chief said his department is continuing the process of development and modernization to enhance its ability to shoulder security and humanitarian responsibilities competently in cooperation with other security bodies. The Royal Ahlul Bayt Institute for Islamic Thought opened its 16th conference under the theme Viable and Sustainable Modern Islamic State. Deputizing for His Majesty the King, His Royal Highness Prince Ghazi bin Muhammad, the King's Senior Advisor for Religious and Cultural Affairs and His Majesty's personal envoy, said in opening remarks that had Muslims solved the issue of majority and consensus and the difference between them, the Muslim nation could have avoided half of its dilemmas in the last 3 years. He told some 100 Muslim scholars that consensus is the base of the 2 pillars of any Sharia system in Islam, allegiance and shura or consultation. He noted that in Western democracies, the state is established and evolves by consensus and governments and rule change by majority vote. Prince Ghazi said Muslims are divided among themselves and in certain countries, people had resorted to violence and sometimes bloodshed and armed struggle or sectarian conflict in the one religion that took them to blind and deaf strife. Several issues are on the agenda at the 3-day forum, including people's rights in Islamic thought, Western thought, and the project of a modern, sustainable, and viable Islamic state. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour said Jordan started a mega project to link the Dead Sea with the Red Sea at a cost of $980 million, which will provide 100 million cubic meters of desalinated water that will help solve the country's water shortage. Mansour told a press conference that after carrying out detailed studies, the cabinet had decided to pursue the project of desalinating the Red Sea water as the kingdom's 3rd mega project during the reign of His Majesty King Abdullah after the airport and DC projects. He noted that the volume of desalinated water in this project equals the amount extracted in the DC project. Mansour said some of the water in the Red Dead project will be allocated to the 4 northern governorates, Irbid, Mafraq, Jarash and Ajloun. During the press conference with the government's economic team, Mansour also said the government could not review the controversial elections law and pledged that municipal polls due to be held on the 27th of this month will be fair and transparent.
Municipal elections are a legal merit that we could not postpone again or review the electoral law, which has been a subject of study, controversy, accord and discord over the past years, as you know. Election turnout is a national deed. So from the point you leave your house to the ballot box, you do a noble and respectable national duty in today's world. The world of today is the world of elections, ballot boxes and decision making.
Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Mansour met governors at the Interior Ministry to review preparations for the upcoming municipal elections. The meeting also dealt with the functions of the Royal Committee for Enhancing National Integrity, which will hold a series of meetings with grassroots organizations and civil society institutions nationwide to draft a nationally agreed integrity charter and executive plan to enhance the national integrity system. During the meeting, attended by Interior Minister and Minister of Municipal Affairs Hussein Al-Majali and Minister of Public Sector Development Khalifa Al-Khawaelde, said Jordan is determined to hold fair elections that would bolster citizens' confidence in the electoral process. He said elections are no longer an internal matter, as the world is watching the conduct of the state and people and how fair the polls are. He urged governors to ensure free access to polling centres, remove any administrative hindrances and provide a relaxed atmosphere for voters to cast ballots with ease and without any pressures by candidates. Mansour said the Royal Committee for Enhancing National Integrity, named by His Majesty the King and comprising experienced members from various political affiliations, had worked non-stop for 8 months and drew up the guidelines and action plan that was sent to the King yesterday. He said the committee will still work immediately after the elections, noting that His Majesty wanted integrity as the spirit in all functions of state authorities. Interior Minister Majali said governors are highly responsible and stood ready to provide a relaxed atmosphere for the electoral process and would help the success of the task of the Royal Committee for Enhancing Integrity. Upon a directive by His Majesty the King, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mash'al al-Zabin, has ordered the Royal Air Force Command to send a plane to pick up a Jordanian family of 4 that had an accident in Tabuk, Saudi Arabia. The aircraft transferred the family for treatment at the King Hussein Medical Center. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour called his Egyptian counterpart Hazem Biblawi following the killing of 24 policemen in an attack on 2 police buses in the Sinai Peninsula. Mansour said Jordan stood by Egypt and is keen on the security and stability of its sister Arab country in the critical circumstances it is passing through. He also offered condolences to the Egyptian government and people, as well as the families of the victims. The Prime Minister voiced hope that Egypt would continue to play its pivotal regional and international role and remain a key defender of pan-Arab and Islamic causes. Minister of Foreign and Expatriate Affairs Nasser Judi met his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow to discuss Jordanian-Russian ties and the latest developments in the Middle East. The talks are part of ongoing consultation between the two countries, which mark the 50th anniversary of their diplomatic ties. The two ministers discussed support for Palestinian-Israeli peace talks, with Judi reiterating Jordan's position that underlines the establishment of an independent Palestinian state as a higher Jordanian interest, referring to the kingdom's vital interest linked to final status issues. They also discussed developments in Egypt and efforts to protect the country's security and stability and avert further escalation. Judi reiterated that Jordan stood by Egypt in its effort to impose law and order, restore security and stability, and fulfill its people's will to renounce terrorism and fend off all attempts to interfere in the country's affairs. He warned of attempts to tamper with Egypt's security. On Syria, Judi reaffirmed Jordan's support of a political solution involving all Syrians to put an end to violence and ensure the country's security and territorial unity. Egypt's public prosecutor has ordered the detention of deposed President Mohamed Morsi for 15 days, pending an investigation into allegations he participated in violent acts. As violence continues across Egypt, Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Saud al-Faisal pledged to fill any financial gaps left by Western countries withdrawing aid from Egypt over its crackdown on Brotherhood protesters. Khaled Ababni has an update.
There is no end in sight to Egypt's political standoff, with more bloodshed as a curfew is being enforced across the country. At least 24 Egyptian policemen were killed and 3 wounded in an ambush by militants near the North Sinai town of Rafah. The policemen were on their way to their barracks in Rafah, near the border with Israel, when militants attacked them with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades. Earlier reports had said an explosion caused the casualties. In Cairo earlier in the day, at least 36 Islamists died in government custody in an incident that the Brotherhood described as murder and the authorities said was a thwarted jailbreak. The Interior Ministry said the Brotherhood detainees had been suffocated by tear gas during an attempted prison breakout near Cairo. Egyptians try to return to their normal lives as the political standoff continues. Military vehicles and troops closed off main roads and junctions, mainly the one leading to the main Tahrir Square, as the government has declared curfew for a month. In downtown Cairo, residents said they were concerned that the crisis will take a longer time to resolve. The crackdown on supporters of deposed President Mohamed Morsi has brought worldwide calls for dialogue and respect of human rights. European Union foreign ministers will hold an emergency meeting in Brussels this week to discuss how to pressure Egypt's army-backed rulers into finding a peaceful compromise with Morsi's supporters. Imposing an arms embargo on Egypt will be on the cards during Wednesday's meeting.
There has been a strong unanimity and convergence of member states on the importance of Egypt, the importance of the situation in Egypt today, and on the importance of the European Union remaining a very close actor to Egypt, to all Egyptians, constructive, a key interlocutor as it has been the case in the last weeks.
Several EU governments have said in recent days that Europe should scale back its financial aid to Cairo, but some are reluctant to take steps that may have a deeper impact on the population than on the government. But the hope is that some further reduction in aid could help end a bloody crackdown by the government against Morsi's Brotherhood, in which around 800 people have died, and prevent further bloodshed between the two sides. Hala Dababne for the News at 10.
The border between Egypt and Gaza was declared shut until further notice by the Egyptian authorities as hundreds of travelers remained stranded at the border. Both local residents and foreigners sat patiently at the Rafah crossing, hoping to cross when it reopens. A demonstration in Gaza City called for an end to the bloodshed in Egypt. At least 24 Egyptian policemen were killed and 3 wounded in an ambush by militants near the North Sinai town of Rafah. Attacks by Islamist militants in the lawless North Sinai region have intensified since the army overthrow of President Mohamed Morsi on July the 3rd. Syrian government forces and pro-regime militia recaptured all rebel-held positions in President Bashar al-Assad's home province of Latakia. But the advances that followed days of heavy fighting and bombardment mark a major challenge to the regime's reassertion of power over central Syria. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the army has made progress in Latakia province, but could not confirm it had recaptured all the villages seized by the rebels. Syrian jets also bombed the town of Selma, a key area on the Turkish border, and the launchpad for a rebel attack against villages in Latakia. As the fighting persists, a team of UN chemical weapons inspectors began an investigation into whether chemical weapons have been used during the Syrian civil war. The team said it won't be speaking to reporters during their visit amid allegations that chemical weapons have been used. Victoria Azarenka won a showdown between the world's top 2 ranked players, beating number 1 Serena Williams in a 3-set thriller 2-6. 6-2, 7-6 in the final of the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati, Ohio. In a match that lasted for 2.5 hours, Azarenka and Williams engaged in a seesaw center court battle before the second-ranked Belarusian finally clinched the victory, winning a nervy tiebreak, 8-6. Williams came into the contest with a chance to reach several career milestones beyond the first Cincinnati win, but failed to reach any of them.
Present to you your champion, everybody, Victoria Azarenka.
Godoy Cruz and River Plate played out a goalless draw in the Argentine initial championship. The home side had the best chances in the match at the Estadio Malvinas, but could not find a way past River Plate goalkeeper Marcelo Barrivero. The draw leaves Martin Palermo's side in 8th place with 4 points from 3 games, while River Plate are in 12th place with an identical record. Finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. Pleasant tonight in hilly areas with northwesterly light to moderate winds. Tomorrow, normal summer conditions are in the forecast but it will remain hot in the Jordan Valley and Aqaba. Temperatures there are expected to soar to the high 30s in the afternoon hours. Winds tomorrow will be northwesterly moderate, turning brisk and blowing dust in the desert region. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a hot day tomorrow with northerly brisk winds and calm seas. Now, a look at the temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. Now, our top stories, once again. The Prime Minister announces that the mega Red Sea Dead Sea water conveyance project has started. In a meeting with local governors and administrators ahead of municipal elections, the Prime Minister vows the polls will be fair to boost citizens' confidence in the electoral process. And 24 Egyptian security men are killed in an attack in the Sinai Peninsula as the bloody political standoff continues to grip the country. And that's the end of tonight's news. I'm Rad Lupouche. Thanks for watching.